Hey guys, so I'm actually quite excited for today's video because it's a bit of a fun video, but I really wanted to highlight today why the UK is the best place in the world to be an investor. Now, I know that may seem like an inflammatory statement and kind of clickbaity, but based on my research, it truly seems that the UK is one of the best places in the world to be an investor. And so today I'm going to go through 5 different countries who also are considered to have fairly good tax-free investing type of accounts. And so I'm going to go through what they have and what their annual allowances are in comparison to what we have here in the UK. But I'm not going to go into great detail today about what ISAs and SIPs are in the UK. If you're not sure what they are, then check out this video linked above where I go into a lot more detail about what these accounts are here in the UK. But today I'm really going to focus on a few other countries. Now, of course, I can't do a huge list of countries, otherwise this video would be hours long. But do let me know if you live in any of these countries or you have lived in any of these countries. Let me know what you thought about their accounts in comparison to what we have here in the UK. And if you live in another country that I don't discuss today, then I also would be interested to hear what types of accounts you have in your country and the types of allowances that you have as well. And of course, if you are a returning viewer to my channel, thank you for coming back. And if you're not already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Please just hit that subscribe button down below. It's completely free, but it's just a great way to support my channel. And of course, if you like this video, then don't forget to like the video as well. So we're going to start with the good old USA. So in the USA, they have 2 types of tax efficient savings accounts, and those are the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA. And so these types of accounts are tax efficient retirement accounts, which you are able to put money in to be invested. And so any growth that is seen within these accounts, such as capital gains or any dividends, will be tax free within this type of account. So the difference between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA is based on the way that they are taxed. So Roth IRAs are funded by after-tax dollars. So once you've paid your tax, then it will go into a Roth IRA, which later means when you are withdrawing money from your Roth IRA, you will not pay tax because you paid tax on the way in. Whereas with traditional IRAs, you don't pay tax on the way in. That's pre-tax money that goes in. But when you go to withdraw that money will then be taxed on the way out. So these accounts have an annual allowance of $6,000 or $7,000 if you are over the age of 50. The interesting thing is that you can withdraw the money that you've contributed into a Roth IRA at any point with no penalty. However, you're not able to withdraw any of the earnings that have been made on investments. So unlike in the UK with ISAs, any money we put in, any interest that we earn or dividends we receive, we can withdraw that with no penalty. In the US, you're not able to do that with a Roth IRA until you've reached the age of 59 and a half. And similarly for traditional IRAs, you're not able to withdraw that money without any penalties until you've reached the age of 59 and a half. In addition to the Roth IRA and the traditional IRA, there are also 401k accounts, which you may have heard before even if you're not American. So these types of accounts are essentially employer-based pensions, which allows Americans to put more money away for their retirement. So Americans are able to contribute a maximum of $19,500 per year into their 401k if they are under the age of 50, and if they are over the age of 50, they're able to contribute $26,000 per year. As the money that goes into a 401k is not taxed, so it's put in pre-tax, when you are withdrawing money from a 401k at 59 and a half, that money is taxed as income. So in comparison to what we have here in the UK, which is an annual ISA allowance of £20,000 plus a pension allowance of £40,000 per year, there really is quite a large difference in the amount of tax-free or tax-efficient savings that you can make in the UK in comparison to the US. In Canada, they have accounts called TFSAs, which stands for the tax-free savings accounts. These accounts are similar to ISAs in the UK, where the investments can increase in capital and receive dividends completely tax-free. TFSAs currently have an annual allowance of 6,000 Canadian dollars per year. However, the really cool thing with these types of accounts is that you can have your allowance rolled over. So if one year you don't use your annual allowance, that can be rolled over to another year. Whereas in the UK, if you don't use your annual ISA allowance, you do not get to roll that over. But also in Canada, they have the Registered Retirement Savings Plans, which is also known as RRSPs. And this type of account is specific to retirement and is quite similar to the SIPs that we have here in the UK. For the RRSP accounts, the money that goes into these accounts are not taxed on the way in, similar to SIPs, but they are taxed on the way out. So the maximum contribution that can be made to an RRSP is 18% of one's income per year, or a maximum of 27,830 Canadian dollars per year. So again, in comparison to the UK ISA or the UK SIP pension allowance, it is quite considerably less than what we have here in the UK, although these types of accounts are great. And again, the cool thing with Canada is that you're able to roll over the TSFA allowance on a yearly basis. Before I continue, don't forget to hit that like button and also that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. So now we're heading over to France. So in France, they have an account called the Assurance Vie, and this just translates to life insurance, although it's not technically a life insurance type of account that we would consider here in the UK. But essentially it functions as a wrapper around investments similar to UK ISAs. So an AV is used as an investment tool whereby French residents can invest in stocks, shares and bonds, and it can be used for medium and long-term investment goals. So with an AV type of account, you are able to buy an annuity once you've hit retirement, similar to the pension or SIP accounts we have here in the UK. And so this can be a really good type of account when thinking about your retirement options. I would say the AV is kind of like an ISA and a SIP rolled into one. And the really, really cool thing here is that there is no maximum contribution that can be made to an AV. However, where the caveat comes in is the restrictive nature of this type of account. So although you don't pay tax on the capital gains or the dividends when they are securely in the AV account, once you withdraw them, that's when you start to see the taxes creep in. So if you were to withdraw money from an AV account within 8 years of starting the contract, there is a 12.8% tax on top of the 17.2% social security tax that has to be paid on the profits. Now, if you were to wait after 8 years, so you would leave it alone for 8 years, you would still have to pay tax, although it'd be less. So the tax drops down to 7.5%, but you still would have to pay the 17.2% social security contribution. So again, although the money can grow within the account tax-free, when you withdraw those profits that your investments have made, you start running into these tax implications, which really does put a dampen on the profits that you're making within your investment account. So in Australia, residents have access to a superannuation account, which is sometimes referred to as super or super funds. So essentially, this is a retirement account for Australians, which the money can be accessed within this account at the age of 65 or 55 if certain requirements are met. So the cool thing with superannuations is that employers have to contribute 9.5% of an employee's income. So this is a quite hefty contribution that all employers have to make, which I think is a really good move on behalf of the Australian government. So on top of that 9.5% that employers have to make on behalf of their employees, employees are also able to add more to this account if they wish. In total, the maximum annual contribution that can be made to a super fund for both the employer and the employee is 25,000 Australian dollars per year. So again, although this is a great account and employers are expected to put in fairly decent amount into this type of account, it is restrictive in that you cannot access the funds within this account until at least 55 years of age, but also the annual contribution is a lot smaller than what we have here in the UK. And last but not least, we have Japan. And I left this to last because it was quite interesting doing the research on what they have in Japan. So back in 2014, Japan implemented their own version of an ISA in their country. And so they modeled it off of the UK ISA, and they have named it NISA, which stands for the Nippon Individual Savings Account. Similar to the UK, any capital gains or income derived within this NISA account is tax-free as it's within that ISA wrapper. So there are two types of NISAs that Japanese residents can access, and that is the standard NISA or the Sumitate NISA. So they can't have both, they can either have one or the other. So in the standard NISA, they are able to invest in stocks and shares, but they're also able to invest in mutual funds. Whereas for the Sumitate NISA, they are only able to invest in mutual funds. Also, the amount that can be invested in these NISAs vary. So in the standard NISA, the maximum annual contribution is 1.2 million Japanese yen per year. And for the Sumitate NISA, the maximum contribution is 400,000 Japanese yen per year. So clearly the standard NISA is much more generous than the Sumitate NISA. However, where it gets interesting is the tax-free component. So in a standard NISA, the investments are only tax-free for 5 years. So after 5 years, any capital gains or dividends received become taxed. Whereas with the Sumitate NISA, it is tax-free for 20 years. But in Japan, they also have an account called the IDACO, which is equivalent to our SIP or personal pensions here in the UK. And the really phenomenal part of this account is that the money that goes into this account is tax-free, so it's pre-tax money, but also when Japanese residents are withdrawing money from an IDACO account, it is still tax-free. So it's tax-free on the way in and on the way out. However, the money within this account cannot be accessed until the age of 60. So the maximum contribution that can be made to an IDACO account depends on the type of job you have. So if you're a public servant or a teacher, there are certain allowances depending on the job that you have. But generally, the contribution allowance varies from 12,000 Japanese yen per month to 68,000 Japanese yen per month. So yet again, this is a lot lower than what we have here in the UK in terms of the amount that can be invested in these types of accounts. However, the really cool thing with the IDACO account, again, is the fact that it's tax-free on the way in, but also tax-free on the way out. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I hope that it's given you a bit of insight into what other countries offer in terms of tax-free or tax-efficient savings and investments. One thing that I have really realised putting this video together is that in the UK, we truly have a very generous system that is hugely beneficial to those who are investors. So if you're not already an investor and you've been thinking about it, then definitely try to make use of the great accounts we have here in the UK, because as you can see from these other videos, we have far less restrictions and we have much more generous contributions that can be made. So again, let me know below in the comments your thoughts. Thank you for watching today's video, and I look forward to seeing you real soon.